You're listening to DUSARadio's online election coverage at DUSAmedia.com.
Hello and welcome back to DUSARadio's Election Coverage 2013. In this series of podcasts, we're interviewing the candidates for all positions in the upcoming DUSA executive elections, and today it's the turn of the candidates for President of the Association. Before we begin, I have a short statement to read out. All candidates in the upcoming exec elections were invited to these interview podcasts. However, presidential candidate Obinna Onyejelli has elected not to participate and as such won't appear in today's interview. Obinna's candidate statement can still be viewed at dusa.co.uk/elections. However, we are here on the day and Jake Dinsdale hasn't turned up for the election interview today, so I'm joined in the studio by the only...
one of three,
Ian McKinnon, despite the fact this is the most hotly contested position this year.
I expected a good debate today, but apparently not.
Never mind. Right, before we get to hearing from Ian, I'll just define the role of President as outlined in DUSA's bylaws. President of the Association is a sabbatical role. The President is the figurehead and spokesperson for the Association. They act as the student's advocate for student issues at local, national and international levels, as well as having responsibility for the actions and activities of the Students' Association and office bearers. The post holder will liaise with the university and other external bodies on all student matters. The focus of the role will be to continually improve the student experience at Dundee University, e.g. academic standards, facilities, accommodation, accessibility and image. So,
yep.
If you would like to just give us your candidate
blurb
statement.
of what I'm up to.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm Ian McKinnon, as you said, and along with the non-existent Mr. Dinsdale, Mr. Onyejelli, I'm running for DUSA President. I've been a member of the DUSA Exec for 2 years now in the role of Honorary Secretary. This has meant I've been the convener and minute taker for the Student Representative Council, as well as the first point of contact for its members. I've also been in charge of DUSA's disciplinary process, including chairing the disciplinary panel. I'm a member of the Exec sitting on DUSA's Board of Trustees, and through this I've involved myself in a number of other campaigns in and around DUSA and the university, including improving the food quality and availability in DUSA, working with DUSA's Catering Development Manager, ensuring the takeaway food is served in biodegradable containers, so anything we serve in DUSA, the containers won't be the naff plastic stuff, it will all be biodegradable. I worked on that with our General Manager and again the catering guy. I've convened DUSA's first AGM in 5 years to reach quorum. I had lots of healthy debate and it was good fun. I quite enjoyed myself. I also worked with the current VPE, Andrew Jardine, to make sure eVision didn't crash during exam results. I've tried to make sure students are aware of the SRC and what they've done by publishing motions as well as voting records of all members on our Facebook and our website, just to make sure that students are aware of what their reps are up to. And finally, starting the end of this March, I'm going to have an anonymous reporting system working in the library, which will mean students who've got any complaints about people being loud or being on Skype or whatever in the silent section will be able to text a number, it'll go to a member of library staff, and they'll come over and tell that person to quieten down, get off Skype, that sort of thing. I've also been involved in a number of societies, and I sit on one committee as well within the university. And I used to have a radio show on Discover Radio. I've written for the Magdalene. I write weekly reviews for the DUSA Media website, and I'm occasionally interviewed by DUSA TV as well. So I've been involved in all sorts of things on campus. I've got loads of contacts within the university and DUSA, and I really think this will help me next year when it comes to settling into the role. But if you choose to elect me as president, and I urge you to do so, I've got 3 main policies. Firstly, I want to see better communication and engagement with students, both within DUSA and the SRC, but also within the university. DUSA do a lot of work behind the scenes, but we frequently don't keep students up to date with what we do. I'd like to see frequent updates, perhaps in a newsletter, on DUSA TV News, or on DUSA's Facebook, telling students of all the things their reps have been up to, both the successes and also our failures, because we need to keep students informed on everything. I'd also like more student involvement on university committees. At the moment we have a DUSA rep sitting in on most meetings, but I think we should get more students involved. We have over 40 members in our SRC, and plus countless class reps. These students should be able to get more involved in DUSA university committees as well. Secondly, I want to campaign for an open and accountable exec. The student body elect their reps, both within the exec and the SRC, so we should be held accountable. Students shouldn't only find out what the exec and the SR do when it's an emergency. They should be able to come to us with any issue that comes up, however small, on campus. And they should know exactly that they can do that. Some students also complain that DUSA just doesn't seem open to students, and it's hard to get information about the previous things that we've done. I'd like to see that change by improving the information available on the website, and if it's something that can't be found there, then students should be able to come to speak to any member of the exec about any issue. Finally, I want to see DUSA get more involved in national campaigns. We're here to represent students, and if important issues are coming up involving students on the national stage or local level, then I think we should be getting involved. We don't necessarily have to take a one side over the other if it's ambiguous and what the students really want, but we should be facilitating debate on campus. We're not a member of the NUS, but that doesn't mean our students' voices shouldn't be heard on the national stage. And obviously I've got a lot more ideas than just these three going forward, so feel free to come speak to me on campus this week. I'll be wearing a fetching bright orange t-shirt, and I'll also be on Facebook if you want to come speak to me there. So remember, on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, elect the candidate with the experience, the drive and the commitment to lead DUSA. Elect Ian McKinnon to be your next president.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
No problem.
I'm going to pick on something that you said, and it's actually your first policy. And you did explain it slightly in your candidate statement there, that you want better communication and engagement with students. Now, this is something that every single exec candidate has made for every single, and SRC candidates always.
Yeah.
You did mention a couple of ideas in your candidate statement, but do you think it's possible that we can get the students more engaged? It's been tried so many different times. There's a blog which has been posted on a grand total of 8 times over the last year. There's a DUSA exec Twitter account, and the Facebook page has been shut down now. Do you think it's possible?
Yes, I think it is. I think at the moment people focus on getting people out there. Like we had the surge race for the SRC last year. A couple of years ago they did exec on the road, where the exec went around various places on campus. But I don't think it's just getting people's faces out there and getting people to know names and what people do. I think it's also letting students know what we've been doing. So, like what I say, if the president is sitting on some committee and they've fought against something like even a big issue like fees, or just a little issue about like a member of staff perhaps hasn't done what they're supposed to with regarding feedback, we need to keep students up to date on exactly what it is that they've been doing. So students can go, oh, I'm a history student and Dan just sat on, the VPCC just sat on this history committee and they dealt with this issue within my module. That's actually going to affect me. I actually want to know what these people do. If they do this, what else can they do? So if we can keep them up to date and informed on what it is we do within all these things we do behind the scenes, then I think there'll be more students wanting to get involved. Like, you can say student apathy is only a problem, but up to a certain level, like the students who would want to know, they just don't have the access to be told about what it is that DUSA do.
Do you think if you succeed in this ambition to get more people involved in the SRC, that'll lead to more people nominating themselves for election? Because this year we did have 4 uncontested positions. One of those positions now doesn't have anybody running for it. So do you think that'll have a knock-on effect?
Definitely. I think at the moment you quite often hear that not just DUSA but the SRC or DUSA Media or societies are quite cliquey and people only join because their friends are members, and that happens within the exec. You can't deny it. But I'm one of the people who came into the exec from completely out with it. I didn't know anybody in the exec that year, but I went and spoke with the guy who was on sec before me, and I thought it was really good, really interesting. Sounded like something I'd get involved with. That's just because I heard about I can't remember what it was, but I'd heard the exec had done something. I was like, actually, this is something I want to get involved with. So I think if you let students know, oh my God, that the exec have done something or the SRC have done something that's actually going to affect them, like say my anonymous reporting system, then it's going to make students go, actually, I want to get involved in that. But also, if we failed at something, at least we can let students know we did try, it might not have worked. Like this year I tried to get exam results emailed to students and I was just pretty much point blank told this isn't going to be, it's not possible on our current system, it's just not going to happen. But if I make students aware of that, then perhaps we're going to get more candidates coming and going, hey, he tried it, it wasn't successful, but what's to stop me keeping on trying it and piling the pressure on the university, and eventually it'll happen. Like with Wi-Fi in halls, that's been an issue in our SRCs since I came into office, and apparently before that as well. But now actually finally the university said they are going to try and lobby for Wi-Fi in halls. Now the university don't own halls, it's owned by a number of companies, but now we've got the university on side plus the students who live there, it's definitely going to help, and it proves that we as an exec and student reps can do things.
I would have killed for Wi-Fi in halls.
I know, so would I, yeah, it would have been absolutely great.
You've mentioned that you've been Honorary Secretary for 2 years now.
Yes.
How do you feel you performed in that role, honestly?
Honestly, I think I've done a good job. If I didn't think I was doing it well, I wouldn't have ran for a second term. And I think it's reflected the fact that I was unopposed for my second term. I think a lot of people might have gone, actually, he's quite good at the job, so I'm going to run for something else. I know someone personally that did that. Rather than go for ONSEC, they went for another position in the SRC. The ONSEC's role is essentially convening and minuting the SRC, chairing the disciplinary panel, and then also the AGM and certain other things around campus. And I've done all these things. I think I've done them well. I've improved on the SRC. I've definitely improved the disciplinary process. And like I said about the AGM, that's obviously improved. But then I've also taken on all these other things on top of that, which has proved not only have I commitment to my roles on SEC, but also as an exec member, a member of board, and a student rep. So I think I've done quite well.
You mentioned there that obviously you ran for Reelection last year, and in your DUSA TV interview that you did just the other week, you touted the benefits of having done it for 2 years. You came in the second year, you knew what to do, you knew how things ran. Do you think there's an argument to make exec positions 2 years at the offset? You run for the position and you have it for 2 years.
I think there's an argument to be made there, but I think there's also certain flaws with that. For example, if someone runs who's not that great at the job, who's not going to put in the commitment and the work, they're then there for 2 years. So then you'd have to look at something about perhaps a way of removing them from office. And like when I thought about how it could be done, you would do it on a rolling basis. Say you'd elect half the SABs 1 year, half the SABs the next, and then the non-SABs sort of in there as well. But then what would happen if someone dropped out after 1 year? That throws the whole thing out of whack. And according to law, you can only do it for 2 years. You can't do any more than 2. So if someone dropped after 1, would then their replacement have to do it only for 1, and then they couldn't run for re-election, or would they then start? I think there's too many problems. They don't outweigh the benefits. I know Brian Cox, our rector, he supports the idea.
Yeah.
But I think the way it is at the moment, it gives people a chance to run for 2 years if you want, but you don't have to do it. And who knows, maybe if I'm elected a year down the line, I will want to run again, but perhaps I won't. Perhaps I'll have had enough. Perhaps I'll have achieved everything I wanted to achieve, and I want to make room for someone else, because I've been in the DUSA exec for 3 years by then.
Yeah.
But there's arguments for it and arguments against it. So I think personally just now I disagree with the idea.
Okay. You say that within your role of Honorary Secretary, it's allowed you plenty of opportunities to learn exactly what it is the President does.
Yes.
What specifically have you learned that isn't within what is outlined in the bylaws that I read at the beginning? What specifically... Yeah.
It's like the bylaws say that like the president sits on court, they sit on senate, they sit on school committees, and I don't think I realised before I came into office exactly what it is that these committees can do. Court and senate are at least top bodies in the university. They decide pretty much everything, and then individual school boards as well. They have such control, and having a student rep, either a member of the exec or an actual student on these committees, allows the students to have such a say and such an influence on how their university is ran. And you have to remember there are 18,000 students at this university. It's being ran for them, so it's important to make sure that the students' voices are heard. And it's great to know that now I know that students actually can have real influence on how their university is ran.
Is there anything relating to that Ian Kennedy has achieved in his 2 years as president that you would hope to build on? Any specific?
Yeah, like you mentioned the DUSA TV interviews. He sort of touches on it there about he's trying to improve the funding for DUSA. Like if you compare us to we're number 3 in the UK, and Sheffield and Loughborough ahead of us, and a lot of unis below us, they all get significantly more money than we do per student. And I think Ian's put a real commitment this year to try and improve, not necessarily getting more money from the university, but working better with the university and DUSA. With the new strategy the university's got in place, is trying to support excellence, like identifying areas of excellence within the university and improving upon them. And I think Ian's put real commitment into and drive into making the university aware that, look, DUSA is a real area of excellence within the university, and it needs to be supported so that we can continue to improve year on year.
You mentioned in your third policy more involvement in national campaigns. You want to see DUSA getting more involved in the wider community and national campaigns. But you also highlight the fact that we're not affiliated with the NUS, one of the few university unions that aren't affiliated with the NUS. Do you agree with not being affiliated with the NUS? Do you think there are benefits to being in the NUS?
I think there are benefits, and myself, I flipped from one opinion to the other. Like way back in my first year was when we last had a referendum, and I was completely torn, and I think I'm still torn now. But I believe that if students want to join the NUS, and if there's a large enough body of students that want to get involved, want this to happen, then perhaps we should consider holding another referendum. For me personally, I think I'd have to look at all the issues again to make my own decision. And in all honesty, I would be perhaps tempted to say we don't necessarily need the NUS because we have achieved all these things as an independent body, but I'd want to work with the NUS on things. But if the students want to be a member of the NUS, then I think perhaps it is the time for another referendum. It's been 4 years, or it will be 4 years as of next year. Most students are here for 4 years. Why not give every student a chance to have a vote?
Absolutely. If a referendum is held and you're elected and it's voted against, we don't want to be affiliated, how would you be looking to get more involved in national campaigns as you outline in your policy, even without affiliation? Without
affiliation. Well, I think even though we're not affiliated with the NUS just now, DUSA I've not sat on any, but I know members of the exec have had meetings with NUS, other NUS universities and the NUS body itself. And I think the NUS understand that although Dundee's not a member, as well as St Andrews and Glasgow, they are big universities and they have real influence. We've got 18,000 students. If the NUS can can work with us, it helps them, and then if they work with us, it helps us. And obviously Dundee has really close links with Abertay and also St Andrews, and I know a couple of guys in the Abertay exec, and I know someone who's running to be their president next year, and I think we need to make sure that the improvements between the communication between us and Abertay, which Ian Kennedy and William Mohideen, who's their president, have started this year, they need to continue on next year. I know Ian now sits on their SRC to view what happens, and then we invite Moko, their president, on our SRC, and I think these sort of things need to keep happening. Like, we had this great campaign with the merger, where Ian and Moko worked together, and things like that, we need to keep up the pressure on that. We need to keep students informed and let them know that we are working with these other unis, and if anything does come up that's going to affect students, it's within our interest and every other university's interest to work together on these things.
Yeah. When DUSA Media interviewed the current exec, yourself included, presumably, during last year's elections and after summer when they've taken office, everybody comes in full of intentions and have hundreds of great ideas of what they want to achieve, but it's a fact of the job. You run out of time.
Yes,
you can't achieve everything you can. So if I am forcing you to pick one thing that you are completely committed to trying to get done if elected, what would that one priority be?
Making students more aware of what the exec do. It sort of fits in with the first two of my policies. I think a lot of students perhaps view the exec as the cliquey group that work in DUSA, and other students don't feel they can come speak to us. I want to, by the end of my term in office, I want to make students feel, I want there to be an improvement in the number of students that can feel they can come to the exec and discuss anything. And then also I want the exec to work towards communicating what we've done better with students. I think it's important that students know there's 18,000 students, there's 7 people in the exec. We should be keeping these students informed on what we do. We should be held accountable.
You say in your candidate statement that you want to see more students on university committees.
Yes.
That's quite a kind of a generalised statement. Yeah. What committees are you personally looking to get more involved in, and how would you be looking to get more in student? We've discussed student apathy.
Yeah.
It's specifically for university committees.
Well, there's I as a non-SAB, I don't specifically sit on any committees, but I have gone in replacement of the SABs if they've been unable to attend. And I think there's so many committees within all the various schools within the university that I've gone and sat on, and I think this is a committee regarding, say, the School of Humanities. Why isn't the Humanities president invited to this? They're a current student of the organisation. Why aren't they here? And then also you get things like Senate Learning and Teaching Committees, which deal with learning and teaching issues. We have various learning and teaching reps on the SRC. Why can't one of them be invited along? And although, there is certain students just don't want to know, don't want to get involved, but we have, like I say, 40-odd members of the SRC, plus countless others who run, plus all the class reps. There are students who'd like to get involved with these things. We see it like within the SRC. Because I do the disciplinary panels, I have to ask for volunteers, and it'd be quite easy for all the exec to go, the SRC to go, oh no, I'm doing my SRC stuff, I'm doing my school president stuff, that's it. But I get loads of volunteers. There are students who want to get involved in things. Mm-hmm. So I think if we can engage with these students, and then they'll be able to feed through the class rep system through to individual classes to actually know, hey, look, this university committee does this stuff, but then also feed back up from the students, because they'll be current students as opposed to the SABs and the exec who perhaps have been away for a few months, maybe don't know what the issues are on the ground, whereas the SRC reps do know a lot more, and that'll hopefully feed into what the university does.
You've mentioned class reps, and this is something that exists in all schools, but one of Jade Ray's candidate for deputy president's policies is to increase the amount of stuff that falls under the remit of a class rep. Is that something you support?
Yeah, well, within the exec this year, it came up within the SRC. Certain issues with class reps and school presidents and their varying levels of what they do and what they don't do within schools. Like some schools have class reps who are effectively vice presidents of the various faculties within the school, or just a deputy to the president. And then the class reps in certain schools are elected and they're there for the whole 4 years of the degree. Others only do it for 1 semester. I think we need some sort of comprehensive system to be put in place to ensure that, not necessarily changing all the ways that the university does things, because different schools need to do things differently. They're completely different schools. But sort of the minimum standards. We need to have reps that are chosen by their classmates. We need to have reps that keep the classmates up to date. The reps need to attend a certain number of meetings to ensure the university listens to them. Because it's all well and good lecturers going, oh, you'll be the class rep for this year, and then not inviting them along to anything. So we need to have minimum standards of what the reps do and what is expected of them, and then make sure that's fed back to the students that they represent.
Okay. We've been sent in a question by Peter Fullilove, which is a really crucial question. I'll read it out just as he's sent it in.
One fact I find quite worrying is that university cuts are conspicuous only by their absence from any of the candidates' manifestos. Can the candidates assure us that university cuts will be fought if they are elected, particularly with the rise of tuition fees for students from other parts of the UK? To pay more for a poorer quality is deeply troubling.
I can 100% guarantee that I will fight against cuts to university. It's something I feel very passionately for. Before I was even involved in the exec, I took part in certain demonstrations we had a few years ago, and there was a sit-in in the Tower building, and we got Pete Downs, and he came down and he spoke to students. We did a study-in the library, where we stayed in the library for 24 hours. So I personally feel very passionate about this issue. Although the majority of students are Scottish or EU students and don't pay fees, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be expecting the best from education, just as those who pay £9,000 a year now, or international students who pay even more. Should be expecting the best for our students. I'm passionately going to fight against cuts that are going to affect students and how their experience here at university, and passionately I also believe I will fight against any increases in fees that may crop up in the future.
You have been a member of the exec for 2 years now. You will have built close relationships with all of the exec, particularly Ian Kennedy, the current president. What advice has he given you? Has he given you any particular pointers, if elected, that you would look to?
Well, he's trying to stay impartial, understandably. Similarly, I am with the two guys going for on-sec. But I've known him for 2 years now. He's, like he says in the video, it's important to speak to people, to understand that you will spend the first few months in office getting to know everyone and learning how things work. And the quicker you get stuck in to these things and you start speaking to the people from the university and within DUSA, the easier it is to get things done. If you feel you can comfortably go up and speak to someone like university secretary or the principal, then it's much easier to get improvements made, both within DUSA and the university as well.
Okay, that's about all I've got for you today, Ian. As I say, it's obviously a shame that
it's unfortunate.
Obi pulled out and Jake hasn't turned up. But do you have any closing statements, any final words?
I just hope that students are aware that I believe I have the experience that's necessary for president. I know so many people on campus. It'll make the president's role much more important. I've been around DUSA for a couple of years now. I've got commitment, I've got drive. I believe I am the best candidate for president, and I hope that come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, students do vote for me as their next president.
And you'll be around on campus?
I'll be around campus all this week. I've got one class this week, that's it. I've done all my essays and everything in advance, so I plan on spending the whole week up, and I'll go up to 9 Wells one day, and I'll be around campus, go around the different various halls and things. I'll try and speak to as many students as possible,
Thank you very much for coming in.
No problem.
Just a reminder that this has been DUSARadio's election coverage. All interviews will be podcasted and put on YouTube and the DUSA Media Facebook page and website, so don't forget to check back there for the most up-to-date interviews. Thank you very much, Dee McKinnon, for coming, and good luck in the election.
Thank you very much.
Although Obinna Onyejelly announced that he would not be participating in the DUSARadio interviews and Jake Dinsdale was absent on the day, both of their posters and candidate statements, along with Ian McKinnon's, can still be viewed at DUSA's election website, dusa.co.uk/elections.